The United States of America is founded on the laws of the Constitution, the laws of our land. But, as you've learned, the Constitution wasn't our first attempt. We first created the Articles of Confederation, which featured a Congress without the power to tax, regulate trade, or enforce laws. In short, the Congress under the Articles was simply too weak to unite the states under one government. Clearly, we needed something better. In May 1787, a convention of delegates was called to revise the Articles of Confederation. Instead, they created an entirely new framework of government that would unite the country through compromise.
The Constitutional Convention, as it has come to be known, took place in Philadelphia. In attendance were George Washington, who was elected President of the Convention, Benjamin Franklin, one of the signers of the Declaration of Independence, and James Madison, whose ideas had a powerful influence on the shape of the new Constitution. After much debate, two rival plans for a new government emerged: the Virginia Plan and the New Jersey Plan.
The Virginia Plan called for a three-branch government system: an executive branch, a legislative branch, and a judicial branch. The legislative branch, also called Congress, would have two houses. Each state would receive a number of seats in Congress based on population. Thus, states with larger populations like Virginia would have more seats than states with smaller populations.
The New Jersey Plan also proposed a three-branch system: executive, legislative, and judicial. However, in this plan, Congress would have only one house, and each state would receive one seat, similar to the system that already existed under the Articles of Confederation.
As you can see, both plans are pretty similar. The primary difference is the way seats in Congress are distributed. So what's the deal with seats anyway? Well, the more seats a state has in Congress, the more influence they have over the laws that are passed or not passed when they come to a vote.
States like Virginia, with large populations, believe that they should have more seats and influence over laws, because more people in their state are being affected by the passage of those laws. Smaller states, like New Jersey, worry that they would be dominated by larger states in the Congress, and the unique needs of their state would not be addressed if they did not have equal influence over legislation. Clearly, the two sides needed to find a middle ground, which would come to be known as the Great Compromise. Proposed by Roger Sherman of Connecticut, the compromise preserved the three branches of government and created a two-house or bicameral Congress. It was the structure of this bicameral Congress that reflected the compromise between plans. One house, the House of Representatives, would have seats for each state based on population, as in the Virginia Plan. The members of the House would be elected by the people of the state. The other house, the Senate, would have 2 senators per state, regardless of the population size of that state, similar to the even representation proposed in the New Jersey Plan. Initially, the senators were appointed by the state. Of course, the Constitution was later changed to have the senators elected by the people, as it is today.
Sherman's compromise was narrowly approved in July of 1787, but the debate was not over. Unfortunately, this is where we turn to the dark side of the convention. Decisions and compromises would be made that would be unacceptable by today's standards. First, Southern states wanted to continue the slave trade. Northern states were in the process of abolishing it and wanted the slave trade banned entirely in the new nation. The compromise? The new Congress would not outlaw the slave trade for 20 years. 20 more years of slavery would be written into the Constitution. 20 more years until the practice could even be debated. Secondly, Southern states wanted to count slaves in their population totals to determine the number of seats they would be granted in the House of Representatives. Northern states did not agree, as there were far fewer slaves living there.
The compromise? each slave would be counted as 3/5 of a person. That's right, 3/5 of a person. Sadly, the 3/5 compromise, a violation of the letter and the spirit of the Declaration of Independence, would be written into the Constitution. This compromise satisfied Southern delegates because for every 5,000 slaves, for example, 3,000 people were added to their population total to determine representation in the House. It satisfied the North because it still limited the number of slaves that could be counted. But it continued a system of exclusion and racism that violated any reasonable definition of natural rights and liberty.
So that was it. The Constitution was signed by most of the delegates on September 17, 1787. A few didn't sign. Perhaps you can research why. It was ratified by the states and became the law of the land, the Constitution of the United States of America.
The beginning of the preamble expressed the sovereignty of the people. We, the people of the United States. But who are the people of the United States? Are women people? Are slaves people? In time, will the Constitution protect the rights of all people? This story is just getting started.